Okay, we're back with a follow-up to the first video regarding Charlottesville and the Unite the Right protest. I have Jay with me, and we're going to go over some of the stuff that we broke down and try to make a little more sense of what's going on and point out some of the absurdities, that everybody has come to understand about this whole thing and what it's leading to. Jay, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to start off right away with the fact that the police had a 2-to-1 advantage over the protesters. So the idea that they didn't have enough resources available to them to control this situation is ridiculous.
Exactly. Let me also point out something that really disturbs me about modern day policing. I was a cop and a very respected cop. Everybody knows that. Jay is an active duty police officer. So what we say does make some difference, and it does come from experience. A stand down order is an absolute absurdity to me as a police officer. I've never heard of that before. Police officers are not told to stand down in the midst of violence or possible violence. It's just, I've never heard of that before. So we're getting too used to a term that should not become normal. Here's another thing. I truly believe that as a sworn police officer, you are not obliged to follow an unlawful order when knowingly the result will be bodily harm, injury, or destruction of property. Okay? It's unheard of. A police officer cannot stand there while someone is being beaten, whether it's non-lethal violence or something that could lead to lethal violence. An officer is not obliged to follow an order. The President of the United States can tell an officer to stand down, and if someone's being beaten in front of them and they can stop bodily harm being committed, that officer is obliged to do something. That's a fact. Nobody has that kind of power in this country. That's something I think you have to understand. Jay, do you agree with that?
Oh, wholeheartedly, and I've said it before. The last thing we need is good little order followers. That's the problem, guys. Too many cops are good little order followers. And you got to know, when unlawful orders, you need to break those orders. And that's a challenge, I know, to every officer, because you can real quickly find yourself sitting in the jail instead of the guy you're trying to stop. But that's the way it is, guys. Be morally justified when you're out there. You have to break and fight against unlawful orders.
Well, some cops are going to have to come out in groups and stand together. Get your police unions to back you on this. If it's an unlawful order, record it. There's no way a police chief can tell you, don't do your job, push protesters into other protesters so that you create some chaotic situation resulting in death, bodily injury, destruction of property, and the violation of the First Amendment. These are all very serious offenses, and if these cops were ordered to stand down and to actually create a problem, that's a real violation. That is a real legal problem for the police department and anybody else involved. The cops need to come out. They need to get some type of backing, whether it's the union or even, you used to be able to trust the FBI to come in and work on corrupt police departments, but who knows who's even involved in this if this goes right to the federal government. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I got to say, I understand for guys that question the FBI, because after they let Hillary get away with what she got away with, as far as I'm concerned, the FBI these days is nothing but Costa Nostra and with better guns and worse clothes.
Yeah, they are.
The FBI.
Yeah, they're compromised. Nobody's trusted anymore. Nobody even. You can't trust the court systems. It's a crapshoot. You can't trust any of the law enforcement agencies anymore. This stand-down thing is a real problem for me. And what about the Central Virginia Incident Management Team? They had 2 months to prepare for this, and they let this be the result. And like Jay said, it would have been very easy to get in between or surround the protesters around the monument, keep Antifa away, and there would have been no real problems. Drive Antifa and BLM out before the lawful protesters left. Make sure they dispersed. You don't drive people into gauntlets and close off areas like it's a military operation that you're trying to ambush an enemy in, and that's what it clearly is. And I think any honest cop will tell you that's what happened. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, any cop out there can go online, look at it. You can pull those plans, go to Google Earth, look at that city, and you can see where they funneled those people into. It was obvious they were trying to start fights. I mean, any first-year rookie could look at that and tell you, hey, man, that's going to be a problem when those two groups get smashed together. That's exactly what happened. And you guys had to know that's what you were about to do. And, as far as the police unions go, after what I saw they did to poor Daniel Holtzclaw, the way the FOP just rolled right over on that guy and didn't bother to help him any, I understand those are questionable groups now. I get that. You can't trust the FOP and PBA these days anymore either. So it's going to be up to individual officers, and their groups are going to have to disobey orders and are going to have to make a scene about it. You're going to have to make yourself known that you're disobeying orders in front of everybody. And, I feel bad for the guys. I wouldn't want to be the guy caught in that position, but you can't be morally justified. Look yourself in the mirror knowing that you're just purposely breaking orders so you can collect a paycheck. The people are not going to forget that.
Well, here's the thing, too. If you know it's an illegal order, just you can tape it, you can create a case on your own. Arrest the fucking guy making the order. You can actually do that. And you get some other guys with a consensus that'll back you up on that. Look, it's not going to be easy, but if this trend continues, then any asshole activist mayor could use the police department to defy all the rights of Americans. And then where does the police department stand? And not only this, officers involved in these things, it's so easy for you to violate the rights of the lawful protesters, but it's the left, the Antifa, the Black Lives Matter that call for your death, pigs in a blanket. They're the ones who physically attack you. The right doesn't do that. So in other words, you're actually protecting and aiding your enemy. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I've sat in those Southern Poverty Law Forum classes, those Southern Poverty Law Center classes. I know they want to sit around and talk about sovereign citizens and right-wing terrorists. Do your own research. Go look up and find out how many cops have been killed, assaulted, or attacked by right-wing terrorists compared to left-wing terrorists. I'm going to tell you right now, Islamic religious terrorists or left-wing terrorists. Go look. You'll find out real fast you're being lied to and you're being trained the wrong way. Bullshit is right in front of your face. You just have to make yourself look at it. And like I said before, the people are not going to forget. Everything were to go wrong and all of a sudden people are marching to guys' houses, politicians to drag them out. They're not going to forget the cops that rolled over on them. They might come to your house to drag you out too.
Yeah, listen, guys, you're backing evil people and you know it. And nobody's going to have any sympathy for you. I know if I was a cop today, nobody would give me an order like that. I would do something. I mean, that's the kind of cop I am. Read my book, you'll see. I'm not just talking shit. Everybody knows it. Now, I will say that when we were back then, we had police chiefs that were fucking badasses, at least on my department. And we would have never even had to deal with an order like that. We never would have had a stand down order. It would have been a stand to. We would have knocked the shit out of people. And I can't say that enough. The bad guys got the fucking shit beat out of them. Okay? Now, this is becoming an unbelievable situation right now that we're just accepting stand down as a normal term. Activist mayors, activist governors. It's unacceptable. Jay, what have you found out about some of the stupid things? I want to point out something Marco Rubio, the Republican from Florida, said. Did you dig that up, Jay?
Yes, I did. Mr. Rubio, real fast, everybody's going to find out that this guy is anti-white. He is not on our side. He is not backing you up. You should not be voting into the office because his loyalties are showing real fast. Right away, first thing he tweets out is that white supremacists in Charlottesville are to blame more than the left wing. And it was unacceptable the way Trump was trying to stay neutral on it by saying both sides are equally to blame. He's tweeting out that, oh no, white supremacists are way more to blame for this than any other side. And it's bullshit. Everybody knows that's crap.
But didn't he...
You look at these guys.
Go ahead. He also said in another tweet or something that violence was justified against the lawful protesters. Didn't you find that one?
Yes, the organizers of the event, which inspired and led to the Charlottesville terrorist attack, are 100% to blame for a number of reasons.
Wow. Okay, and then he also...
I don't know who organized it. It's the people on the right, and he's saying they're 100% to blame.
Yeah, and that's a senator, okay, that boy toy Cuban from Florida. Not only that, but he also said that some of the violence was justified on the side of the left. You see, he's sticking up for Antifa. Okay, see, they're starting to circle the wagons now. Everybody's starting to pick their sides. You notice that now. And then look at how the media tried to goad Trump into vilifying the right, just completely vilify him as Nazis and supremacists. You know, I never thought that sticking up and utilizing your First Amendment rights and trying to preserve a historic monument made you a white supremacist. How about you, Jay?
I 100% agree, and look what they did right after. You got that video out there about tearing down that monument. I can't remember what state it's in, but they went and tore down the monument. You know, have we gone out there and torn down the statue of Lenin that's in, I do believe it's in Illinois? Have we gone out there and torn down any of them? No, we don't act like that. They act like that. It's obvious to everybody out there.
Some of my commenters have said that they've been taking them down in Maryland and all over the place. This is not just an isolated incident with Robert E. Lee. This is going on all over the place. It's not being really publicized. And that's a real problem, man. I mean, this isn't just about preserving a statue. This is history. They're doing this to provoke now. They're doing it on purpose. And it is ugly, and it's getting uglier by the day. Go ahead, Jay.
You know, and for everybody out there, I noticed somebody was commenting in other person's videos about how, well, the government went out and arrested Yvette Filarco for what she did in California last year to the Trad Workers Party, Matt Heimbach and his crew. And I look at that and I go, no, they didn't. The California Highway Patrol arrested her. They didn't arrest her for federal crimes, civil rights violations or anything. No, they arrested her for assault and things like that. I mean, you know, this girl's not looking at any time, but I bet she doesn't do any time. I bet they did the arrest just because they couldn't. They had to do something because there was somebody shouting at them that said, well, let's pretend like we're doing something. The feds didn't lift a fucking finger to do anything to that girl when it would have been easy. I could have freaking wrote a warrant up just based on the videos, the 3 videos before, during, and after her, been an easy warrant. But they didn't lift a finger. They're not going to lift a finger. They're not on our side. They are sold out. They're gone.
It seems like the cops are just afraid to be cops. You're afraid to use the authority that you have. We had great authority. You have arrest powers. You don't have to be told what to do for every arrest. I mean, use your fucking brains. What, are you going to wait for orders to make an arrest? We made arrests when we saw violations of the law, period. What has happened to guys these days? I'm not putting all cops down, but God, somebody's got to come out in some way. Now, I know I got a lot of cops on this channel, and they agree with us. And I know they cannot say too much, but you got to come up with some type of plan that you're not going to obey unlawful orders. That's the key word, unlawful. There has to be at some point when cops are going to say, absolutely no, Captain, I'm not going to follow that order. I don't care who it's from. It's illegal and it's immoral. Even the military has options for not obeying immoral orders. There has to be that kind of buffer. Otherwise, any mayor or governor or some asshole with an elected official could just get away with anything and use the police departments as his goon squad. Go ahead, Jay.
And for any of the cops listening, notice we're talking about the lower ranked officers. We're talking about your deputy first class officer, one stripers or slick sleeves. We're not even directing this at higher rank guys, and it's because we think you guys are gone. We think you guys are just completely lost. So yeah, it would be a hell of a thing to see a captain or a chief get up and say, no, screw you, I'm not doing this, and I'll have a problem with any of you that try to make any of my officers below me do any of it. Like that, I would love to see that, but I don't think I'm going to see that because I think you guys are just sold out and gone. You're just worried about that paycheck and that other thing. Your soul is at test here. You stand before God, I don't think that he's going to be okay with the idea of you going, well, I went along with the order just because, I need to get my paycheck. I had to pay for my kids and whatnot. He's going to look at you and say, oh, okay, so you sold your kids into a crappy life, so they'll have to fight even harder to fix a problem that you would not have had to fight that hard to fix. I got a funny feeling you're not going to end in heaven on that defense. That's not going to get you far with God.
Right, and what if one of your family members was involved in a protest and was injured because of incompetence of police officers and immoral orders given by police officers? This affects all of us as Americans. We are not an American functioning sovereign nation anymore if we can't even rely on law and order. You cannot shut people down because you don't like what they're saying. Otherwise, you should shut down Black Lives Matter, La Raza, and Antifa. They're the fucking bad guys, period. There is a bad guy here. They're funded by Soros. They even bust him in and paid him $25 an hour. Wow, what a bunch of pathetic people. For $25 an hour, you will sell your soul and you will bring down this nation because for $25 an hour. Jay, what do you think about that type of American?
Well, you can always find those leftist twerps, those leftist jerks. It's the other guys. It's the guys on the beat, the guys on the force, the guys taking the order. What's your hourly paycheck? You're really selling everybody out. You're the one with the power and the authority to do something about it, and you're not doing anything about it. You're letting it happen because you don't want to make a wave, because you don't want to put yourself out there. Well, you know what? If you actually want to fight the enemy, you got to put something on the table. Everybody's got to put something on the table. We're all putting stuff on the table. James is putting his good name on the table. I'm putting my name on the table. Everyone's got to ante something up if you want to stop this problem. You can't just sit back and think, well, other people will put stuff on the table and I can just ride the wave in. Yeah, that's not going to float. That's not going to get us anywhere.
Right. And the masks, it's still illegal to wear a mask in the commission of a crime. So if you're illegally assembled, or if you are in the commission of an assault or an attempted assault, that's a commission of a crime. You should arrest that person just for having the mask. And there is a charge for that. Okay? Not only that, but as far as disobeying orders, I disobeyed orders. I remember sometimes I was a very outspoken cop. Now, sometimes they wanted me to do things like I was a city cop and I worked in the projects, worked in all the bad areas, but sometimes, when you're new on the job, they want to put you on radar details somewhere. And I never liked that shit. I never wanted to enforce motor vehicle laws unless I needed to do it, because if the guy was just way out of fucking control. But I told my captain, I go, no, I don't want to fucking do radar. I don't like it. He goes, good, then I'm going to put you in a walking post in the worst fucking neighborhood. I go, go ahead and do it. He did. And I walked the fucking worst post in the fucking city. Who cares? I just made a stand. And there were other times too. And, it wasn't like anything as serious as what's going now as far as stand down orders. But you can make us think about something. And maybe if one guy with balls stands up for what's right, then there'll be more guys with balls. That's really what it comes down to. Remember, cops, the right is on your side. Those are the good old boys. Those are the law-abiding citizens who will have your back in a time of need. These fucking leftist pieces of shit, black, white, Hispanic, who are on the left and who are La Raza, Black Lives Matter, Black Panthers, and Antifa, they are against you. There is a side. There's going to be sides formed pretty soon, and you're going to have to pick one. Okay, and here's one other thing I want to talk about before we end. Pick your fucking leaders a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to come out and blanketly condemn anybody, but this Kessler guy was an Obama supporter not too long ago, and an Occupy Wall Street guy. And you let him run the show? In the comment section, leave what you think about this guy, and if you think he should have ran such an important event. Jay, you tell me what you think about it.
Yeah, it is highly suspicious, all the things that you found. It's definitely an issue, and I understand he started the protest, and everybody wanted to stop those statues from being torn down because they showed up and kind of piled on what he had done, but it's kind of like you built on a base that is very shaky. And I understand some people didn't have a choice in it, but we got to start picking these real carefully because This was a setup through and through. They got all our people in there, and they smashed them. And we yell at the cops, but right now you need to just assume you cannot rely on them. Whatever they tell you, you need to assume that they're not going to help you out, and they're going to roll over on you just as soon as you walk into whatever event you're going to fight. Until some cops, all of a sudden stand up and fight back, you're just going to have to assume that you've got no choice. It sucks, but that's just the way it's got to be.
Yeah, and we're not criticizing in hindsight. I know a lot of people that went to the event, and I respect them for exercising their First Amendment rights and protecting our American heritage. I respect them. We're just trying to kind of give you advice for the future, that you got to pick your event organizers, people that you could trust a little bit more. Now, I may be wrong about the guy, but I don't know. Again, I have every right to criticize it like anybody else, but that's just based on what he's admitted already. An Obama guy less than 2 years ago, and all of a sudden he's this super, right-wing guy now that wants justice for, white history and everything. I don't know. It's a little strange. Okay? And there's others in this movement that have, in your movement, that has become a little suspect and in their backgrounds and maybe their intentions. We won't get into that here. If you want to comment, go ahead. And as far as the nationalist movement politically, I put that out there, but I don't know. I don't really believe in politics anyway, and I don't know how this will ever get off the ground, doing it with legal protection. It doesn't look like that's ever going to happen, believe it or not. Not with the system entrenched in Washington. They got it sealed up, it looks like. Go ahead, Jay.
And I would say that the biggest thing, if they had a goal, if this was a huge setup, their goal was to get people not to show up to the next event. That's the thing. They want to spread fear so everyone's like, well, no, I'm not going to show up to anything. Because they want us just sitting around on the internet, making videos, not ever lifting up to fight back. And we can't let that win. At the same time, we've got to be careful on how we choose our battles, and that gets back to our leaders. Who are our leaders? Who brought us in there? How did we get into this? What were the things that they were checking? If they're not the kind of guys that can be checking and setting something like this up, then you need to find the guys that can set something like this up, because you got to be careful who you're following into a fight, because you don't want them to roll over on you and end up in a big mess. And
right.
At the same time, you don't want to just not fight at all. We've got to fight. We've got to get up there. Everyone's got to showing up to these things are important. It is important because it scares the hell out of the enemy, because when they see those videos, that torchlight ceremony, and all those people showing up, in their minds, they're picturing being plugged out of their beds in the middle of the night, brought down to the nearest tree. That's what they're thinking of, because they know they got guilty consciences, because they know they've done evil, and they probably deserve something like that to happen to them. That's what scares them. That scares them to death.
And like I said, I respect the people that went. I mean, you're sticking up for the First Amendment. I respect that. You're on the ground doing it, and that's commendable. You had a legal right to be there. But just remember that you were going into enemy territory, an activist governor, an activist mayor, an activist vice mayor, an activist police chief. That's all dangerous ground. So, but anybody that was assaulted or anything, I think you should file lawsuits against the city. Bring this all out. Bring out the racist tweets by Bellamy. Bring out the fact that there was bias, a lot of bias and stand-down orders. A lot of cops have already come out with the fact that they were ordered to stand down. This isn't just us suggesting that they stand down. The cops are saying it, which means that if they're subpoenaed, they're not going to protect the fucking mayor and the police chief. They're going to tell the truth and say, yeah, it's already documented that they said they had to stand down. And that would be a problem in a court of law, especially with death resulting, all the property damage and all those injuries and everything it caused, including the violation of the First Amendment. That would be a problem in court for a mayor and a police chief to substantiate that they gave stand down orders, and orders that actually led to the creation of violence and mayhem. Go ahead, Jay. You can finish off.
Yeah, I would just say that James is right. James is speaking the truth. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and he's right about this. And we've got to get up and keep fighting back. But you cops that are going along with the stand-down order, you've got to fight back. I mean, imagine if a group of you would have showed up, got up there before everybody went into that Lincoln Park, got on a loudspeaker and said, "Hey, look, I'm on suspension. But I told these guys what they're about to do to you guys is going to be a big mess, and they're going to cause fights. You don't even want to go in there because it's going to be a huge problem if you do, and this is why. And their plan, they told us that they're going to tell us to stand down. Like, that would take some serious balls, but at the same time, it would expose massive amounts of corruption on the highest levels. People that are in that in-between awake stage would not be able to deny that, hey, those cops were telling the truth. You know, for somebody to get up and risk their career over something like that, that shows a lot of balls. And somebody with it that's a captain level or a higher rank would do it, so his lower officers didn't have to. That would show an even higher level of balls. That's what leaders are made of.
That's right.
I'd like to see something like that, but I don't expect it.
And one more note, if you're fired for standing up for what's right, and you could prove that you were fired for standing up what's right, you'd make more money in a lawsuit and exposing this than you could in 20 years of being a cop. So remember, use the law. You guys are cops. You know the law. You should know the law. Use it to your advantage to help people in the United States. Remember, cops are the frontline soldiers on the streets of the United States. Start acting like it.